Good morning to everyone who's just joined us. Thank you so much for taking the time today to listen to our presentation. Let me start maybe by introducing myself, and then I will give the mic to Laith so he can also introduce himself. My name is Ahmad Younes. I'm from Scylla, head of sales for the Middle East Africa region, based in Dubai, in the region. So I will also share my contact details at the end of this webinar, so you can get in touch with me in case you have any questions or you want to schedule a one-to-one demo or proof of concept, etc. Right?
Thank you so much, Ahmed, and thank you for the entire Scylla team for having me on again on this webinar. My name is Laith Alkhouri. I'm an intelligence specialist. Have done a lot of work in mitigating risk for a lot of different organizations in both the public and private sector. So I'm really privileged to join such a terrific team today to discuss access control and how it can mitigate threats. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Laith. Likewise. So this is not the first time that we present together. So I hope it's even more, let's say, beneficial to everyone. Today's subject is a big thing. It's grabbing a lot of attention and investments from around the world, simply because that technology works perfectly because of the availability of cameras everywhere, and the AI recently added even more accuracy and more ways to differentiate between real faces and fake faces, of course, and to add more capabilities to the system itself in terms of integration, in terms of what you can do, in terms of how to deal with this data. Of course, the first part of the presentation will be covered by Laith, which talks about more into counterterrorism, and I don't want to step on your toes, Laith, but I will let you maybe go ahead with the next slide. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. I think it's good to have a quick discussion on the ability for, like you mentioned, technology in preventing threats. And of course, AI-powered technology is always about efficiently deploying resources, saving time, providing speed to organizations. But really, when we talk about specifically access control, I like to use the phrase letting the right one in. It's all about letting the right people into the right places. And that goes in both ways. This is the efficiency of streamlining entry and exit, but at the same time, preventing those who should not be there from accessing that site, that office, that post, that sensitive location, etc. So really, in general, access control is all about regulating this entry and exit to a certain area or resource. And so what we have done, and many organizations have done so far, is use the traditional methods of accessing a site, accessing an office, accessing a research site, etc. And so, card keys, key fobs, PIN codes, etc. But by integrating AI, you're really, introducing facial recognition, recognizing the right person to enter that specific location. And so when we are utilizing this AI-powered technology, you are proactively mitigating that risk to the humans, to the infrastructure, to the source codes, to the research. And so I understand that in so many ways, organizations are looking at streamlining that that process. But from a counterterrorism perspective, and also from countering physical threats in general, the more you are able to prevent the wrong people from entering a specific location, the better you are in proactively, not reactively, preventing that. And as I mentioned in our last webinar, mitigating physical threats all about prevention. And so the more you have of that in place, the better. And so, of course, as you can imagine, this has many different applications, whether we talked about streamlining privileged access, but also detecting intrusions, but also solving missing persons cases, mitigating risk from having individuals on a watch list enter a specific environment or traveling to a specific location. And of course, at the end of the day, when you generate advanced analytics, you are able to enhance your machine learning, and you're able to provide your organization with a snapshot of entry and exit traffic flow. And so that also helps in cost reduction, of course, right? You're streamlining this process. You need less human resources in place, and also you need less reactive measures in place. And so this, in my opinion, should be really the standard for any organization that is trying to protect its assets, trying to protect its personnel. And so when we think about the sectors, you know, and we will talk about them in a bit, but this is a great snapshot of the benefits of using access control. And you and I have spoken about this multiple times. We've spoken about to our clients in multiple locations about this. So of course, you're increasing the accuracy. That goes without saying, really. Real-time alerting anybody who's trying to, you know, enter and exit a specific point without privileged access or without permissions. You can totally scale the technology, whether it's a location or whether it's 1,000 locations, right? The ability to have the scalability is amazing. Add that to adaptive learning, and you're enabling, you know, AI to be a lot more accurate down the line by learning, or, you know, enhancing the machine learning. That is, we talked about advanced analytics, integrating it in existing systems. You spoke about this multiple times, Ahmed. I continue to learn from the Scylla team on that. Please feel free to jump in and talk about that. Because,
I was just going to say that the technology is reachable to everyone, because the cameras are everywhere. You have cameras in your office, you have cameras in your company, in your department. So all of this data is available to you, and it's a great way that you can use it. So for example, in a retail application, away from counterterrorism, for a retail application, it gives you a great, let's say, statistical data that you can use to identify, let's say, what is my breakdown of customers, who's buying, who's not, maybe even like age groups, and combining this facial recognition with other technologies like say people counting, heat map. It gives you also even deeper dive into analyzing what's happening in your store, and then at the end, it's a better return on investment because you had data, but you're just not using it. What we are providing here is a dashboard for you to be able to use that data for your own beneficial, and with time, that technology will pay for itself. That's what I wanted to add.
That's a terrific point, and I think many different sectors can use this. Various ones in the private sector and in the public sector, and you touched a little bit just now on it's an intuitive user interface. You don't have to be a sophisticated user to use the technology. It is extremely intuitive, and you're able to also reduce the operational cost. Instead of having 1,000 personnel monitoring 1,000 locations, you can easily cut down on that operational cost. And ultimately, you can do remote monitoring. You don't have to be on site to monitor everything. We know that a lot of business owners, as well as many security personnel, are not on site, but they need to keep tabs on what is happening on that site. And the last point, it has an anti-spoofing capability. So the system is not easily, it's foolproof, and you're not easily going to be able to fool it to be able to access that location. It has increased accuracy every single time. And I think you and I spoke about this as well, the ability to, what did you call it, Ahmed?
The liveness detection. So to detect if the face that the system is reading is a real face, or is it a snapshot of or a picture. So that's also comes with the training of the engine itself to identify a real face from a fake face.
Exactly, and as deep fakes are proliferating these days, deep fakes that are likening to other human beings. You can't really fool the system with that. So it has a lot of great benefits. I'm sure there are more that we did not mention. So when we are having this conversation, my mind always goes to all of these vertical applications where the technology can be implemented and very useful. So of course, military sites, really sensitive locations, government offices, indeed, missions and embassies. And missions and embassies, it's not really just for personnel, but also for any visitor who can register beforehand, before they get to the embassy, so they are recognized upon entry. Airports and aviation, customs and borders, etc. Corporate offices. I know there are already a number of corporate offices that have implemented this. Ahmed, you would know about this more than I do.
Yeah. Just to go back on the airport subject, if you saw the news recently when Dubai Airport implemented the facial recognition for hands-free check-in process, if you want to call it, where you can just walk in an area and the system will capture your face and automatically check you in or check you out. So that's exactly what the technology is offering, and it's available. You have cameras everywhere, so it's within reach. That's what I want to say.
No, that's exactly right. I believe Dubai is coming to be the most visited city in the world, and with a volume of 50 to 70 million visitors, we can go back to touching on that scalability aspect. But at the same time, they called it passport as a ticket, or rather, face as a passport, and that's the phrase they used. And yeah, that's exactly right. That your unique identifiers. And even when we talk about plants and factories, whether in the oil and gas sector or the manufacturing sector, etc., so many different individuals are in and out of those locations. Schools and universities. Every single student, every single teacher, every single administrator of those locations can be registered, streamlining that entry, and of course preventing. And we will talk about some of those use cases. I love smart cities concept. Dubai and Abu Dhabi are soon to become one of the world's leading smart cities, leading to the 2030 vision of turning them completely into smart cities. At the same time, you can imagine that the ability to have an entire smart city and where you go from one location to another can be extremely useful. There is the scalability aspect of that. There's the centralization aspect of that. Research facilities, really, extremely sensitive subjects where you need to only the right personnel to come in and out. And even contractors who are not employed full-time, they might be employed for a day, they might be employed for 3 months, the ability to have them registered beforehand. And once they get on site, they are automatically recognized for that privileged access. So when we talk about AI access control in mission enhancement specifically, and a lot of things I've dealt with and I continue to deal with to this day, we're talking about intrusion detection, right? We're talking about conducting forensics, anti-human trafficking. Besides running my own company, Intelonics, I'm also the chief intelligence officer for MVP task force, which is all about combating human trafficking and exploitation. And this is a perfect example of how you're able to combat human trafficking, identifying victims and identify perpetrators. Crime stop and watch lists, like we talked about. Person search, if you're looking for a specific person, and the ability to recognize that person, whether they come in and out of a specific location. And there are so many other applications. So if we move to the next slide, I think there are also on your side in the private sector, maybe this is something you want to speak about, Ahmed.
Yeah, sure. So basically, this is, if you want to call it, maybe the commercial aspect of it. So facial recognition, we have noticed a lot of, the big increase in the demand of facial recognition to be used for many applications. One of them is the time and attendance. So the people want to have this, like I said, the hands-free access without, using access card or, going to the fingerprint reader, checking in. Especially after the COVID, people started realizing that yes, the technology is there. We can do things hands-free. And so this gives you also the ability to have all of the reporting behind it, like how many hours you spent inside, people going on longer breaks. Sorry for everyone who does that, who's with us. Privileged access also, like giving layers of access to certain people. Maybe you are allowed to go to data center, sorry, to the control room or data center environment, only the IT people. So you can give that easily through that dashboard to manage the access rights to a specific group or specific people. Site management, so you can have multiple sites. And again, going back to that, data is available. What you do with it is up to you. So if you have multiple offices around the world, if I have multiple shops, also again, intrusion detection, we can also detect people, let's say, we call it tailgating. Someone going inside a certain area, facial recognition detected, he's allowed, he goes in, someone else use that to tailgate and go in unnoticed, but of course, we can show an alarm immediately as soon as that happens. Face as a ticket. We have actually some references with this concept where people can easily register themselves on the app using the camera on their phone, register themselves. Once they go to the event, it automatically detects and checks them in. And of course, at the end of the day, use that data. Who visited me in booth number X, who visited me in booth number Y, and so on. So there is a lot of applications. I can go on and on, but unfortunately, the time is limited. So going to the next subject, I think that's your domain.
So I think a lot of people already know this by now, that in counterterrorism, prevention is everything. And I spoke multiple times about this in our last webinar, and I emphasize that because prevention is like taking your antibiotics and your vitamin before you get sick, or having an alarm on your door before you get robbed, right? And the idea here is that something like Scylla technology suite would be a major force multiplier, adding it to the existing the preventative infrastructure that's in place. So in many cases, in counterterrorism, we see individuals trying to use, and I should say this is in counterterrorism, but really encountering a lot of different physical threats, physical threat actors, smugglers, drug smugglers, weapon smugglers, traffickers, etc. They're using, forged travel documents. And this, we've seen this happen in during the Paris attacks that killed, many people. And they cross multiple borders before they get to the intended target location. And so as they are crossing borders, embassies, sensitive locations, through airports, the ability to have auto detection of those individuals, and specifically when there is a red notice, like an Interpol red notice on them, or they are already in the system, is the ability to recognize them. So these individuals can be auto filtered, and this provides security personnel with a path to effectively ensure that those what I call POIs, or persons of interest, are further vetted. But also this saves not only time, but you are going through also cold cases. You can solve cold cases that have been that have happened. You don't have a suspect, and now you finally are able to solve those cases in addition to emergent ones, and enhance intelligence sharing systems between not only the public and the private sector, but across multiple public sector agencies, such as airport security, federal agencies, central intelligence, and local authorities. So another use case on human trafficking, if you look at the staggering numbers, how many victims have been identified? Well, between 2008 2022, the number of identified victims in human trafficking has quadrupled. This went from 30,000 individuals to over 120,000 people. This is only the identified individuals. So when we talk about all the stats, and this is what we know, is that there are almost 25 million victims of forced labor. and 71% of them are women and young girls. The impacted victims, for example, in trafficked sexual abuse or trafficked sexual labor, we have nearly 5 million people. Over 1 million of them are children. That's what we know about. 20.9 million are trafficked worldwide. So when we look at the most the impacted communities, they are really the most vulnerable among us. And this is not only inside specific countries. This is really worldwide, intercontinental. So something can be done about this. Some of this force multiplier in mitigation can be done about it. Many of those individuals who are victims or traffickers are moving across borders, are coming through airports. So having access control against those lists of suspected individuals and or missing individuals, the ability to identify them, filter them immediately, and you're not only solving cases, but you're also learning about the tactics, techniques, and procedures, and the methods and the patterns that you observe in solving those cases, and that can help you down the line as security personnel in mitigating that threat over time, and hopefully reducing the number of trafficked victims and reducing the number of perpetrators who are on the move between countries. So it's a really perfect application for that.
If I may add one point here, Laith, the technology also works offline. You don't have to be like live camera to run the technology. We can also run on recorded footage. So, for example, if you say that it's on access control and border and airport, but even if the authorities are doing some investigation, they have maybe suspected that someone was at that hotel at that time, so they can go to the hotel, grab the footage, run the facial recognition, and see if that person actually was there, and that can be done in a very fast time.
Yeah, that's a really terrific point, Ahmed. And of course, a lot of them, they have to work in retrospective approach to those cases. Another one is, mass shootings, and I know this is more of a United States case, but really this is something that we need to look at as we've seen more emergent mass shootings in other countries as well. Almost 340,000 kids so far experienced mass shooting. No kid should be experiencing that, but unfortunately that's the case. Last year was the highest record of more than 46 mass shootings in schools, and so these could have been preventable tragedies. Many of those shooters, many of those murderers are displaying their guns before they even enter the school premises or the university premises, and so they could be with the gun detection technology or the weapon detection technology. That could have immediately sent an alert to the security authorities, to law enforcement, and the entry could have been prevented. But even if they were not carrying a gun, and that individual, adult or young adolescent that is not registered to enter the school premises, can be just further vetted by the authorities. And so that should be something that we should be working towards, implementing the technology in a variety of places, so we can give peace of mind not only to the parents, but of course to the vulnerable young kids. I know that these are some of the use cases I discussed in our last webinar, so it's worth touching on. From a facial and object recognition to automatically detect those blacklisted individuals, like I mentioned, or wanted individuals in crowds. You're detecting the weapon, you have facial recognition, but also you're adding all of that into running all of that information against existing blacklists and databases. So if we look at the 2012 attack at the US Embassy in Benghazi, that would have been potentially prevented. One of the points you mentioned on, Ahmed, is the forensics aspect, and this would be a terrific use case to run against law enforcement databases with various video archives and quickly and efficiently identify suspected individuals. So I know we talked a lot about those use cases. I'm sure there will be a lot more discussion on those use cases. I don't want to bore our audience with that, but I think this is something to also now discuss, of course, some of the private sector applications that you touched on as well, and then hopefully give them some time to see an amazing demo. This is just yet another use case that we see here on the screen. of individuals passing through various transportation modes, airports or trains, etc., and the ability to identify individual suspects or perpetrators. So please go ahead, Ahmed.
All right, so the exciting part is over. Now it's the less exciting part, which is the my part. So basically, a little bit introduction about Scylla itself. Scylla was a company established 5 years ago. The people who started this company are made up of PhD holders. Some of them are ex-FBI, NASA, and KSK. The reason this company witnessed a big success is because of it's one of the most accurate systems currently in the market. And that not only it's one of the most accurate, but also it's if we take the accuracy and we compare it with the similar ones, we consume 7 times less hardware than another technology with the same results. The good thing about Scala is since we are AI company, it's very easy to integrate with existing infrastructure, because as you know, and you go to an installation after the fact. So we go to maybe 99% of our projects. It's an already installed cameras, already installed system. So you have to integrate with the existing system to be able to show the results and to show the maximum benefit. And the deeper the integration, of course, the better that you are able to display different values and different data that the customer is interested in. One of those integration that we have done is the integration with the access control system. And that gives you a double factor. That's maybe one more slide here. Yeah, so the dual factor authentication. So you use your card and also to verify that you are Ahmed. So you have to present the face, which is easily doable because of the existing cameras. The other thing that, of course, worth mentioning here is that we are camera agnostic. So we work with all the types of cameras. As long as you are able to satisfy the pixel density within the image, that means we need a certain pixels, the number of pixels to represent the face to be able to effectively not only enroll the face, which should be a high pixel density, and then recognizing it, we need even less pixel density to recognize that person. One thing that I wanted to also mention, since facial recognition is also now we are combining it with AI, you need to train the engine on certain data sets, and those data sets need to include different genders, different age groups, different authenticity. And then you run that facial recognition to identify your accuracy. So on those 3 data sets, we are able to record that much accuracy, which is again, it's on the top level in comparison with the market. And we have done, and Laith, we have done some tests to discover the accuracy level against, again, here it's worth mentioning maybe different authenticity, because a lot of people coming to us and they complain about their existing system because it's not able to identify the employees, simply because that facial recognition was not trained on a more inclusive database. This is some of the numbers that are from a study in the market around facial recognition, and the size, the market size of facial recognition, simply because it works. It's very convenient and very accurate. Going forward to the beneficial or benefits, sorry, to use Scylla access control is because we are, first of all, we are providing a layered access control, granular rule management. So again, you can define people have access to which part of the building, and of course also give people, for example, a time period when they can access the site. So it's not, doesn't mean that you can access 24/7. Maybe you're allowed from 8 to 4, or maybe like you mentioned, certain employees or certain contractors can access the site on a certain day, on a certain time. So that also we are able to do something called visitor management system through facial recognition. So we can also give access to, like you mentioned, visitors or contractors at a certain period. And then the prevention of tailgating. And I have some videos that I will show just in a bit. Just to mention the different cases that you can use facial recognition for. And by the way, we are not only suitable for the Middle East, but we can also comply with the GDPR regulations in Europe, just because of the, the privacy and etc. And I think soon, maybe also here in the region, there will be some regulations that will ensure privacy for people, similar to GDPR. And since we are already there, so it shouldn't be difficult for us to meet that requirement. Like I said,
That's a sorry, Ahmed.
Go ahead.
That's a really excellent point, and I think that should be definitely re-emphasized. That there is the data privacy aspect, that you are meeting the high standard of data privacy, and at the same time you are ensuring that flow of access control is done really perfectly. So I think that's a great point to mention.
Thank you. So this is one of my favorite subjects whenever you want to use a facial recognition, is the loyal customer statistics, because this one has actually two branches. One, loyal customer, of course, there is a lot of now attention on the rewards and memberships and VIP list and so on. And once you go to your favorite retail shop, you get rewarded, and of course they appreciate, and then it's a repeating business and maybe a growing business. The other aspect here, and maybe going back to the security side of it, is if someone is accessing multiple locations in the same day without even being enrolled. So if we want to compare it with the bank application, that someone is going to different branches of that bank at the same day can be suspicious. So the bank operator will also want to know if that case is there, because that could be an attempt of fraudulent. So this is it's one of my favorite subjects, is for a simple fact that we can actually enroll faces without adding them to first name and last name, ID number, blah blah. So we are able to auto enroll it under a specific unique ID. So in case that person comes to the same shop, or maybe to a different shop from the same chain, I'm able to identify that that person visited me before, maybe last month on a Saturday, spent this much time. So that's also important to identify repeating visitors in the retail industry. Also, people tracking during fire evacuation. Now we are going to the safety aspect, and as you can see, the facial recognition has multiple sites. So you have the access control for security, you have time attendance for administration, you have loyal customers identification for statistics and commercial part. People tracking during fire evacuation. Now we are going to the safety application, which is if there was a fire in a building or an office the department, you are able to identify who is still inside the facility. And if you have facial recognition across your building, you're able to tell which camera was the last to spot that person. So you're able to maybe limit to your search, let's say, area to that specific part only. Going to the dashboard itself, like you mentioned also in your slides, it's very intuitive, very user-friendly. I was talking to my technical team before this presentation, and they said, we can transfer this knowledge to you in 5 minutes. So this is how easy it is to train people on this technology itself. Because it makes sense, how to add, let's say, someone to a watch list or to a group. It's very easy. With a few clicks, you are there. And with the auto enrollment function that we have, once you read the faces going inside the building, you can go ahead and say, okay, that person I know, I will maybe add him as an employee. And this is a very a good option to have, because you don't want the employees to be counted all the time, because that will give you inaccurate counting of people. So, for example, if I have a retail shop and I have my employees running around the shop, I don't want the counting to always, +1, +1, +1 at the end. If that employee maybe crossed that counting line 20 times, my counter will show 20 numbers, which is not accurate. So if I add that employee on a watch list, I can exclude that person from the counting, and then it gives me a unique number of visitors. So this is just an example of what you are able to achieve with this. So here I have here a video. So this is what I was talking about to detect tailgating. People were allowed, walked in the building. Someone saw that the door is opening, and they sneaked in. So I got an alert immediately, so I can deal with it. This is a very serious incident that needs to be addressed ASAP. Another example for, like I said, time and attendance. How many hours they spent today? Are they late? How many people are absent? Who's early? Who's, let's say, on time? And then it gives me all of the data in my dashboard. I can easily export that data. I can push it to another system using different APIs or ways to integrate with another, let's say, database or HR or payroll system. That is also doable. If we go to, sorry, one slide too happy. Let me just go to the videos, 1 second. By the way, we forgot to ask if anybody has any questions. Please feel free to drop it on the chat so we can answer them for you. All right, so let me go back to the sharing. All right, so this is just an example of how easy it is to do that. So as you can see, the system is running, and there are people passing by. I saw a face
Ahmed,
that was...
I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I got a notification on my end that the chat looks like it might be disabled for some attendees. I'm not sure if that is the case.
Oh, okay,
We have
sure.
Q&A section.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yes, please check Q&A.
Okay. So basically, you have people like going inside the facility, got captured. That person who was detected, I want to add him to a watch list. Maybe he's wanted, or I want to add him as an employee, so it doesn't get counted later on. And then as soon as they walk into that area again, or any other camera, he's added to a watch list, and can be easily detected, or getting an alarm whenever that person walks into that area again. Or I can just add him as a VIP, for example, so I can in a retail application go out and pay specific attention to that person. So as soon as that person now he's in a watch list, I get alerts. And as you can see, I don't need a really high quality crisp image to be able to enroll, and I don't need a really good image to recognize. And as you can see, this is from a side view, not even from a front view. Another video that maybe is worth sharing is age robustness, and this is one of the maybe biggest concerns even for counterterrorism application. People maybe have old photos, or maybe now he has a beard or white hair like me. It's difficult to recognize on a traditional facial recognition application, and this is where AI again comes in handy. The robustness against the changes in the face itself, with of course the age. So if I'm now enrolling people using their old pictures, and some of them like teenage, period. And I enrolled maybe here I have an example of 4 people, and I want to run the system, see how it performs. And as you can see, the system was easily able to pick up those people based on their younger pictures. They're all my colleagues, so I can't say anything further.
No, and this is a good point, Ahmed, because it people do change faces and it changes over time, but also comes down to even victims who might be missing for quite a long time, or for a significant period of time, and they ultimately might be recognized even as they age or as they change their looks. So that's really great point.
100%, 100%. The other video that we have here is the auto enrollment function. I think, yeah. So this is our dashboard. On the right side, you see this security system with the cameras. On the left side is our dashboard. So as soon as that person is now in front of the camera, my dashboard will alert me that there is a person maybe who is not authorized or not even enrolled. There you go. It gave, if you noticed, the system was able to generate, one second, was able to generate a unique ID. So I don't have to have like a pre-enrolled, let's call it, person. It gave also the age group, the gender, some other interesting information that I might have. And then later on, I can just right-click on that person and give the missing information to. We have a question on the chat. What is the accuracy when using an older picture? Maybe Ara can answer that. By the way, we are privileged today by having Ara joining us, not as a presenter, but he's there to support us with any technical questions. Thank you, Ara. So yeah, I'm able now, since I added him to a watch list, as soon as he walks in again to any of the cameras, immediately it gives me an alarm that this person is in the facility. Again, here we have the returning customer. So you will see that the same person was detected multiple times through different cameras. It can be the same camera, it can be different cameras. It's up to your deployment or setup. And as soon as he crosses maybe the threshold, so maybe 5 times or 6 times, I'm able to get an alert that this person visited me or visited the facilities 6 times already, or 5 times. Give me an alert. In that case, it can be 2 times, so it's up to again the deployment and the setup of your system.
And this, by the way, also goes against perpetrators who might be casing an area or surveilling a specific site, and you can automatically detect that, as you said, putting that in your settings, and then you're able to see how many times they've cased or surveilled that location.
Yes, how many times they visited, so they are collecting information. Maybe also noting down the security guard, let's say, shifts, or movements, and so on. So here, as soon as that person crosses the threshold of the number of times he or she visited it gives me an alert with the picture, some information about where they were last detected and how many times they were detected. Yeah. So I think that is it for me in terms of videos. Maybe going back to the presentation, I can take care of some questions.
I think there's a question here about the accuracy when using an older picture. I think you already touched on that, Ahmed.
Yeah, well, I can elaborate a few sentences more. So first of all, I cannot tell you exact number because there must be a exact merit of how old the picture is. So is it from 1 year or 5 years? So if I tell you an exact number like 99%, it'll be just a number. So, but basically what we did, we compared our solution with similar many year in the market solutions. I won't blackmail them naming, but we were pleasantly surprised. We had, well, the truth was that in our set of so we have gathered, in, by the way, it was fun experiment. We have gathered photos from all employees in the office and run them through the system, and our system didn't do a single mistake. And that was very pleasant surprise. And we had up to 50% of success with rivals in the market. So in this particular case, we took 10 years ago photos. It was strictly. So for someone, it was 25, 15, or the others, older of us, unfortunately, it was 43, 20, 33, etc. But our system didn't do a single mistake, and it was a very nice one. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Ara. To you who's listening right now, thank you so much for joining. Feel free to reach out in case if you have any further questions. You can either send it to our email inquiries@scala.ai, or you can just email me, ahmad.younes@scala.ai. For any questions, also, I think there is one more. How about FR accuracy in outdoor installation?
Of course, most of our solutions are indoor in terms of the field installations, but we do also have outdoor installations as well, especially on the entry points. I think one of the videos that you have shown on the existing installation in the supermarket, a few cameras are outdoor there, so it works as accurate as the indoor one, because the reason, well, of course, first of all, camera matters a lot, and the illumination as well. One of the worst things you can do is to put a camera to point at the face of an entering person when the background is well lit and the face is dark. So if those hardcore cases are taken care of, we are as good as indoors. So the very first layer of AI transfers this face to key points, and that's it. So key points and, well, sorry for tech, but feature vector, and then the recognition works as smooth as it would go for outdoor.
Perfect. Thank you, Ara. Maybe we'll give it a few seconds. Maybe more people are asking questions. Regarding the recording of the session, I think, yes, it will be available, and I think it will be on YouTube. So in 2 days after the session, once we make my face more beautiful and cut this message.
both you and I.
Yeah, and then it will be available for everyone.
Well, I want to thank you guys on the Scylla team for having me again on this webinar. It's always great to join you, but also it's great to learn new key points for myself and the applicability of the technology suite in a variety of applications. Of course, I'm always focused on the mission-centric kind of cases, but it's so terrific to see the applications in a variety of verticals and the applications. So I really appreciate you having me on, not only as a guest, but also as somebody who can learn from you. So I very much appreciate today.
Thank you so much, Laith, for your words and for your time today. And of course, we are also learning from you. So many things about what you do. Very interesting. And I want to say thank you to Ara for joining on short notice and answering those questions. And Anastasia, thank you so much for for arranging this. And to everyone out there, thank you so much for joining. And hope to see you in a real opportunity very soon.